So we are on batch number 2 of our decoction mash experiment. And today I'm going to be brewing an Oktoberfest. Now, I didn't realize how broad the Oktoberfest recipes were. I've seen recipes where Vienna malt is the backbone of the recipe, where it's basically nothing but Vienna malt and a few other malts to kind of help out the recipe. And then I've seen other recipes where it's mostly Pilsner malt with a lot of Munich malt and then just a little bit of Vienna. For my recipe, I'm going to go kind of like middle of the road. So what I got is 4 pounds of Pilsner malt, and I've got 3 pounds of each Munich and Vienna malt. And then for hops, I've got Hallertau, Mittelfrüh. I've got 2 ounces of these, and I'm going to be reusing the yeast from my Munich Helles. I had a bit of a rough night last night, so bear with me. See, my phone is barely surviving, so it's going to be a fun and pretty long brewing day. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So I started out by adding my grains into the pot and made any water adjustments. This is half a teaspoon of gypsum, and I also added half a teaspoon of calcium chloride. I started with RO water. So then I went ahead and set up my pump so I can dough in. The strike water temperature was about 120 degrees, so the mash actually ended up being at about 110 degrees, which is right about where I want it to be. So just added the water until I got about this consistency, and I let it sit for 15 minutes, at which point I checked the pH. pH checked good, so I went ahead and pulled out my first decoction, which is basically nothing but grain. I mean, very little liquid came out of there. So I went ahead and pulled out about a third of the mash. It's about 2 or 3 of these little scoops. And then I went ahead and did a saccharification rest at 158 degrees for about 20 minutes, and then I boiled it. The boil was about a 20 to 30 minute boil. And at that point, I just went ahead and added all the mash back into the main mash. Now you can see the difference in color. I'm trying to find out how much of a difference in flavor this makes. But anyways, when you add your decoction back to the main mash, you want to make sure that you stir it. So that's basically what I'm doing here, just stirring this as much as possible. That way the decoction mash can actually warm up the entire mash and bring it to a protein rest. I did my protein rest at about 122 degrees. I think I started at 124, but it was right around 122 degrees. Let that sitting for about 20 minutes, and at that point I went ahead and pulled my second decoction. Now for the second decoction, I didn't use a strainer, just pulled out using a Pyrex cup, and I got pretty much the same amount of liquid and grains. So again, you want to do a saccharification rest at 158 degrees for about 20 minutes and then bring that to a boil. This was starting to smell really, really bready at this time. And once you're done with the boil, what I did is just, again, add everything back to the mash. Same way, just mix everything very well so that there's no hot spots. Everything gets mixed in at an even temperature, and the goal here is to get to a temperature of about 150 degrees. I was shooting for about 148 degrees, which is where the mash spent most of the time. So at that point I went ahead and mashed out, brought the temperature up to 170 degrees, and then I started to recirculate my wort until I got clear wort out. So anything that pulled out that wasn't clear enough, I just dumped it right back in until I was able to get clear wort out, and then I brought to a boil. Now this is just me amusing myself, looking at the hot break as it progresses. Anyways, you're going to bring this to a boil. I did a 90-minute boil, so I boiled for about 30 minutes before I did my first set of hop additions. So about 60 minutes left in the boil, I went ahead and added my first set of hops. So this is about 1.5 ounces. And then I let this boil. When I had 20 minutes to go in the boil, I added the aroma hops. About 20 minutes into this, about half an ounce. So just stir everything in, and once I was done boiling, I went ahead and cooled everything down to about 50 degrees, at which point I just aerated my wort as usual. Unfortunately, it got dark, so I can't really show the exact color of the beer, but it's a pretty light. I went ahead and stuck to the lightest side up on Oktoberfest. I want to say it's about 8 SRM. It wasn't too bad, but anyways, this is the yeast that I used. It's the same yeast that I used for my Munich Helles. So I collected about 4 little jars like these ones. I think it's still may have been on a little bit low pitching rate, but so far the beer is fermenting just fine. And the fermentation schedule for this is going to be basically the same as my Munich Helles, except I'm starting a little bit higher because I'm reusing yeast. So I'm doing about, I started at 48 degrees, no, actually 47 degrees is where I started, and I'm going to let it raise to 55 degrees, and then I'll do a diacetyl rest. So that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. We'll see you guys next time.
Like, just randomly combine caramel, malt, hops, and you're fine. Right there.
Let's do it.
All right, that's that.
We'll see. We're missing 2.